Highlighting history of suburban Sydney with the St Peter's Cooks River History Group.
Our aim is to preserve and promote local history.
We are based at St Peter's in Sydney's inner west.
Industrial Marrickville emerged in the 19th century.
Brickmaking was one of the earliest industries. Rupert Cook's brickworks were in Addison Road. He was one of the first brickmakers in Sydney to produce white glazed or enamelled bricks. Toyer Brothers' pit was in Dibble Avenue. Daly's Standsure Brick Company was on Sydenham Road.
By 1864, Robert Cole had established the Enmore Tannery on the site now occupied by the Marrickville Metro Shopping Centre. It was taken over by Joseph Davenport and Thomas Alcock in 1867. The tannery, which had 32 pits, supplied leather for their boot factory at Forest Lodge. 120 hides, 10 dozen calf skins and 30 dozen kangaroo skins were processed each week. 1,500 pairs of boots and shoes were made. In December 1868, a picnic was held at the tannery for employees of both factories. Entertainment was supplied by a German band. The company was awarded first prize for boots and leather at the 1869 Intercolonial Exhibition.
Following the 1889 floods and the draining of the Gumbamora swamp, the area became industrial as it was no longer suitable for residential use.
In 1893, Vicars established a woolen mill. It was the first and largest woolen mill in Marrickville. Its products were advertised as made in Australia by Australians for Australians from Australia's pure wool. They produced a worsted cloth suitable for the Australian climate. The company ceased operation in 1976.
A.P. Donney and Sons Engineers and Brass Founders were established in 1894. They moved from Redfern to Marrickville in the early 1900s. They became the largest manufacturer of plumbing fittings in the Southern Hemisphere. Automatic and semi-automatic lathes used for repetition work were also produced.
In 1908, the Australian woolen mill was established. Fine count worsted yarn was produced. Crusader was its well-known brand name. Stamina clothing was made from their cloth. The company merged with Vicars in 1965. The site closed in the 1970s and today Wilkins Public School is located there.
Charles Abel founded the Marrickville Margarine Company Limited in 1908. Abel owned a bakery in Newtown and was inspired by a butter shortage to manufacture a substitute product, Pilot Margarine. He installed a machine for extracting oil from peanuts in 1921. In 1925, the name Eater was adopted for its peanut products.
The Globe Woolen Mill opened in 1920 on a site surrounded by Cowper, Philpott, Gordon and Perry Streets. The company specialised in indigo serges and grey worsteds. In 1929, new buildings with a distinctive sawtooth roof line were erected in Barclay Street. Today, the Gordon Street building has been converted into apartments.
Morris McMahon and Company, can and drum manufacturers, operated in Cowper Street, Marrickville for over 60 years. They produced plain and decorated tin canisters. After a fire at the factory in 1987, they moved to Arncliffe, where they are still in business today.
In 1909, the Sydney Steel Company was founded by Alexander Stewart, Mayor of St Peter's, not to be confused with the Premier of New South Wales with the same name. The company manufactured massive steel girders for bridges and buildings. In 1936, it was the largest employer of labour in Marrickville. Operations ceased in the 1960s.
In 1913, Linthorne's Boot and Drapers on the corner of Illawarra Road had a special window display which featured blankets, travelling rugs and a variety of boots and shoes which were all made in Marrickville.
Malleable Castings Limited was founded in 1915 by C.W. Squires. The factory was originally situated on Victoria Road before relocating to Rich Street in the early 1930s. The company produced malleable castings for motor parts, agricultural machinery, sewing machines and lawn mowers. Today, known as Malco Industries, it still operates in Rich Street.
The original Fowler's pottery factory opened in 1837 on Parramatta Road, later moving to Camperdown. In 1919, Fowler's Pottery opened on Fitzroy Street, Marrickville. They made earthenware drain pipes, edging, chimney pots and stoneware containers. The Marrickville site was sold to Marrickville Holdings in 1969. The pottery was demolished in 1982.
A Marrickville manufacturers exhibition was held in the newly opened town hall in 1922. People were encouraged to come and see what is made in Marrickville, which was described as the Birmingham of Australia.
A General Motors assembly plant opened on Carrington Road in 1926. 70 cars a day could be assembled and 400 persons employed. The 1930s depression led to retrenchments and cessation of production in 1931. In 1939, the factory was sold to DAVIES Co, manufacturers of cotton products.
Dewey and Hansford moved from Cogra to Marrickville in 1927. Originally manufacturing nuts and bolts, the company expanded into tools and automotive parts. In 1968, it was taken over by the United States automotive firm TWR, which operated the factory for another 3 decades. Today, the factory buildings are used for automotive repairs.
Shelley's Aerated Waters and Cordial Factory was established by John Augustus Moore Shelley in Broken Hill in 1893. His son came to Sydney in 1928 and opened Shelley and Sons Cordial Manufacturers in 1930. They were located in Murray Street. In 1960, the company acquired Marchant's Drinks.
The 1935 manufacturing exhibition to promote local products was described as an excellent standard of exhibition, a tribute to the many and varied secondary industries of this prominent industrial area.
The ETC Technico factory was on Carrington Road. The company was originally registered as the Eastern Trading Company in 1918. In 1937, the name changed to ETC, then Technico in 1942. During World War II, the company made aircraft equipment. A technical school for the RAAF and US Air Force was established there. After the war, production transitioned to electrical goods for the civilian mass market. A joint company was formed with the US Bendix Aviation Corporation in 1951. It was taken over by the British Pie Company in 1955 and known as Pie Technico, changing to Pie Industries in 1959.
Diana Pottery evolved from Ian Lowe's Alberware, which was produced in a small shed in Garners Avenue. Crockery shortages during World War II led to his brother Eric and brother-in-law John Christopher obtaining a contract from the Department of Defence to supply cups, mugs, teapots and milk jugs. Increased production led to the purchase of a site on Marrickville Road in 1941. After the war, they produced decorative products specialising in hand-painted pottery, kitchenware and ovenware. Diana produced millions of pieces of pottery. The factory closed in 1975. In 1978, the name Diana Pottery was sold to the New Zealand company Crown Lynn.
By the end of the 1970s, large industries had closed or decentralised. Today there is light industry in the area employing a smaller number of workers.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel. It's free. And check out our website, stpeterscooksriverhistory.wordpress.com.